Welcome to Keeping Up with Our Community, a podcast for and about Romeo Community Schools. Each week, we will invite different guests to share insights about some unique aspects of our schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. Their in-studio podcast experience allows you to record perfect audio and capture amazing video. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. Contact them now via email for a free consultation and schedule a visit at mit.tvpodcast@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com. Hello, my name is Marianne Brush, and I'm the Communications and Marketing Supervisor for Romeo Community Schools. It is my pleasure to introduce episode 41 of the Keeping Up with Our Community Schools podcast. Today's episode will focus on navigating the cold and flu season and will be hosted by Mary Selden, Director of Special Services for Romeo Community Schools. Our guest today is Julie Pauley, Romeo Community Schools District Nurse. I will now turn it over to Mrs. Selden to lead the discussion.
Thank you, Marianne. It's my pleasure to be hosting this episode of Keeping Up with Our Community Schools podcast. After reviewing feedback from our last climate survey, parents asked for more resources on wellness strategies. Our goal is to continue to create more resources on those topics and other topics to help students, parents, and staff in our community. As always, if you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health concern that impacts your daily life, please call your doctor. If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide, please dial 988 for free confidential help 24/7 or call 911 for emergency help. All right, our topic today is cold and flu season. Flu season in Michigan typically runs from September to April, but the exact timing and duration varies. Flu activity often begins to increase in October and peaks between December and February. But it can also last until May on some years. The timing and severity of each flu season is unpredictable. Federal and state partners, along with local health departments, work together to monitor the flu and other public health concerns. I would like to welcome Julie to our podcast. Julie, what should families know about the cold and flu season?
So cold and flu season comes every year. It's not preventable. It's kind of just something we have to live with and deal with. But it is important to equip yourself with the knowledge of how illness is spread and how to keep yourself healthy during these winter months.
I know parents have a lot of questions, and you do a really nice job about sending home information in principal newsletters and share guidelines with parents. And if they ever have questions, I know that they can reach out to their school and you have resources for them to share. When should children stay home at school if they're sick? What are the Romeo Community School guidelines?
So here in Romeo, we follow the guidelines from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So their guidelines are students should stay home if they are severely ill, so a child that is lethargic or less responsive, has difficulty breathing, or has a rapidly spreading rash, if they have a fever, which is 101 degrees or higher, if they are having diarrhea, they should not have diarrhea for at least 24 hours before returning. If they're vomiting more than 2 times, and they should not return to school unless they have not been vomiting for 24 hours. Abdominal pain that continues for more than 2 hours, or intermittent pain associated with any other signs or symptoms like a fever. A child with a rash and has a fever or change in behavior. Skin sores on an exposed area that cannot be covered with a waterproof dressing. Respiratory symptoms that are worsening or not improving and not explained by another cause, for example, allergies. And then certain diagnosed communicable diseases have specific exclusion periods. Usually your doctor will give you guidelines on when you can return to school, but if they don't, you can always reach out to me, and we have kind of a chart that we follow from Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
I know a lot of times when parents have to call their child in, they want their name, their grade level, their teacher, but it also is really important to share why they're out. And I know sometimes there's letters that we can send home to alert the classroom or other families in the school of certain types of illnesses. So I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle to help us control the spread of any cold or flu symptoms.
Yes, for sure. And then that way too, people, if there's a certain case of something in a classroom, we can send home a letter explaining, symptoms to watch out for. And then that way, parents are just more aware of what to look for, what's going around.
Okay, so speaking of that topic, what can parents do at home to help their children when they're feeling ill?
So when kids are sick, fluids are always important. So just trying to keep your child hydrated. If you can get them to drink water, electrolyte drinks are really good too, like Gatorade, Pedialyte, things like that. But you just want to keep them hydrated. Medications, if they have a fever, you can give them Tylenol, ibuprofen. Also, cold medications can kind of help with those symptoms. Viruses a lot of times just have to run their course. So, really you're just kind of trying to help the symptoms at that point and just get through it. Rest is very important. So allowing your child to rest or nap during the day when they are not feeling well. And then nutrition. So trying to get your kids to eat a little something. If they're experiencing GI symptoms, a brat diet is always good to follow, which is the bananas, rice, applesauce, toast. But you just want to try to get them to eat something at least, even if it's just a little something. And then if you're unable to keep your child hydrated or their symptoms are not improving after a few days, you do want to take them in to be evaluated by their physician.
I know a lot of times parents have questions about using medications like Tylenol or ibuprofen when their kids have a fever. And I know part of the recommendation is to be fever-free without needing to use one of those medicines. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So, if you don't have a fever and the only reason you don't have the fever is because you're taking medicine, you should still stay home. You should not need to take any medicine and be fever-free in order to return for at least 24 hours.
Thank you. That's so helpful. What are some ways that parents and students can stay healthy this school year, such as good hygiene, healthy habits, controlling exposure when traveling, etc.?
So, one of the best things you can do is practicing good hand hygiene and teaching your kids of when and how to properly wash their hands. So washing your hands before and after you eat, after using the bathroom, when you're coughing, sneezing, or blowing your nose, wash or sanitize your hands after. Anytime your hands are visibly dirty, anytime you touch something contaminating, which could be bodily fluids, blood, anything like that, anything in the restroom. And then teaching kids how to cough and sneeze properly. So sneezing into their sleeve or elbow and not on surfaces.
I know we always joke with our kids to sneeze like a vampire and to pull their elbow up into their nose so they look like a vampire with their cape pulled up.
Yes. And my kids are little at home, so I'm constantly reminding them, cover your mouth in your elbow, not on your brother. So really just trying to teach kids because they're little and they don't know. But also maintaining a healthy diet. So trying to eat plenty of fruits and vegetables, staying up to date on vaccinations, especially like the yearly flu vaccine and things like that. They kind of try to pinpoint which strands you're going to see, and then that's what they put in the vaccine typically. Taking a multivitamin is always great. Getting enough sleep every night. Anytime you're worn down or tired, that's when your immune system is not at its best, and that's a lot of times when people get sick. And then cleaning and sanitizing high-touch surface areas in the home and at school. So like desks, doorknobs, light switches, for example, just keeping things clean and trying to clean regularly. Germs are unfortunately everywhere, so all we can really do is try to keep ourselves as healthy as we can by following these healthy habits. And it's also just so important to stay home when you are feeling sick so we can avoid spreading germs to others.
I know right after COVID, people were washing their hands and using hand sanitizer so much. And it feels like for a while, people weren't getting as many common colds and things like that because the hygiene was really good. But then, time wore on and people washed their hands a little less. And I feel it in our family that we catch things a little bit more than we were when we were so hyper vigilant before.
Yeah. And also just being really cognizant of when you're touching your face and stuff. a lot of times I'll be just sitting there thinking about, oh, look, I'm putting my hands in my mouth, touching my nose, and that's kind of where you're getting germs. So I try to be more cognizant of not touching my face.
I agree. With allergies, I used to rub my eyes a lot more when they were itchy, but I try not to give that extra exposure to myself.
Especially to just being in places with a lot of germs. Like if you're at a store and you're touching things that a million other people are touching, that's when I really try to not touch my face, especially.
Well, thank you so much, Julie, for being here today and for sharing your knowledge. We're incredibly grateful to Mint and the Romeo Community Schools for helping us share this information. We will have additional mental health and wellness podcasts about once per month during the school year. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Mary. Thank you both. Next up, Eva Dawson, our Career and Technical Education Director and Work-Based Learning Coordinator, will join us to discuss the impact of work-based learning at Romeo High School. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week to keep up with Romeo Community Schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. Their in-studio podcast experience allows you to record perfect audio and capture amazing video. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. Contact them now via email for a free consultation and schedule a visit at mit.tvpodcast@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com.